Hello and welcome back to the Loyal Sons Show. That's at the Loyal Sons on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all the social medias. Follow us there and follow us here for Pitt sports content you won't want to miss. Well, maybe you do right now. If you love the fact that we get to watch different football teams other than Pitt sometimes and hate watching Pitt most of the time, this is the place for you. The Loyal Sons Show. A safe, sunshiny place for your Pitt Athletics fix. Brought to you by Section 5. And it's not too sunshiny right now. As you can see, each of us have terrible lighting right now. Hello, darkness, my old friend. It's a bad place to be right now.
We feeling any better from yesterday, Sunday? Yeah.
No. Did you watch Narduzzi's press conference? No, I don't feel any better.
That was bizarre. That was a bizarre press conference. One of the weirder ones. I mean, Narduzzi's always kind of on edge after a loss at pressers. And you could tell against Cincinnati, he was kind of flustered and definitely didn't think that the Cincinnati game would go the way it did. He is straight up in not panic mode. He's in full Narduzzi dickhead mode.
He's like a dog that got out of the house and is now just living out in the wild and running around. It's lost all of its senses. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing right now, but I'm just trying to survive.
He doesn't get defensive. He gets defiant. So it's like if you start pressing him, he's not going to be like, well, hold on, guys. Hold on. It's like, no. That game went exactly how I wanted to, actually. Thank you very much, Noah. Oh, no, Chris. I actually planned for Jurkovec to throw 3 picks. It was all part of the game plan. And honestly, if you aren't a football mind, just say so. Like he digs in. And it's like, no. Everything is kind of going exactly as I planned. There's nothing I need to change. We just need to execute the game plan that I came up with better. Everything is fine.
I am a big proponent of who gives a shit what a coach says to the media, because they definitely don't mean it. And like, what do you expect them to say? Like, if he came out and said, like, what would make us happy? If he came out and said, yeah, Phil really sucked and we're going to bench him. But that's not a thing that coaches do. This one, there were some quotes where I was like, okay, I'd rather you not say that. But for the most part, I don't really care, except I wish he didn't say he had a lot of faith in Cignetti's decision-making process with the personnel. That was an extra hard kick to the groin.
Yeah, I mean, I can think of a couple things I would have rather he said. Yeah, the offense is an issue right now. I will be paying closer attention to the processes in the preparation for the offense and the game planning. We are evaluating all of our options, instead of first of all, can we address the, no, well, let me say 2 more things and then we'll address Boo City, what's got everybody talking right now. He admitted criminal negligence on his part as far as offensive preparation. I get he's a defensive coach, but he said he spends 85% of his time with the defense. I mean, pay attention to the unit that's struggling. Feed the hungry mouth.
Do you want Pat Narduzzi to do that though? Do you want Pat Narduzzi to have more of a say in the offense?
Well, that's actually a really good point. Well, one, I don't think it could be any worse if Narduzzi started drawing up plays in the dirt. But 2, he's either throwing Cignetti under the bus completely by saying, yeah, I give him total reign over the offensive scheme. And so if we suck, it's all his fault. Or he's just admitting yeah, no, I don't care enough about the offensive side of the football to pay any attention to it. But that was just one of a litany.
This is going to sound like I'm defending Narduzzi, but I'm not going to say it. Never mind. I'm not going to do that. Go on.
Well, okay. We've gotten ourselves all worked up, but we did have somewhat of a plan before we started recording. And I think we're well overdue for a seat check. And I think this can kind of just transition right into seat check. So,
Dun, dun, dun. Break glass in case of emergency.
I thought this was gone for a long time.
yep. This for people who've been listening for a long time, because there's definitely some people who were not, a good amount of people who were not listening when we were still doing seat checks. This was a recurring segment back in 2021, mainly directed towards Mark Whipple, but also Narduzzi at the time. Basically, judging how hot the coaches' seats are, and I think we're going to do a player this week as well. But basically, seat check, we're going to go 0 to 100. I'll give a rating 0. 0 degrees, that was Wani's seat after the 13-9 game. 100 degrees, that was Mike Haywood's seat after about 2 weeks on the job at Pitt. So that's how we're going to grade this one out. And I say
we cleaned up that intro a little bit. It used to be a little bit more direct.
It's a little cleaned up. But I think we're going to go. Let's just start with Narduzzi since we're already talking about him. I was going to go in a different order, but let's just start with Narduzzi and work our way on down. So, David, do you want to proceed with Boo City talk?
Floor is yours, David.
That Boo City comment was incredible. I mean, first of all, it's unfortunately very funny calling Pittsburgh Boo City, PA. Second of all, Phil Jurkovec got butchered for calling out his own fans. He got called a baby. Everyone said, like, no, we're still rooting for Phil. He's, good kid, whatever, but like, that is such a rookie mistake, turning on your own fans. Dudes saw the way people reacted to that and doubled down, quadrupled down.
He poured kerosene on the fire.
There's a way to stand up for your quarterback. I don't think the way that dudes chose to stand up for your quarterback is what 99% of the other Division I head coaches would have done. It was an approach to defend your quarterback. I'll give him that.
I thought it was a very good idea to just say, "Oh, they're booing me. They should be booing me." Like taking that, like the boos are directed at me. I'm the one screwing up. But then he just doubled down on, we're in Boo City, PA. And it was like, okay, you just guaranteed Phil getting booed off the field on Saturday night.
There might be an outside chance that he intentionally tried to piss so many people off that it would take a little bit of the hate away from Phil and onto him. I don't think it took any hate away from Phil, and it just added a lot more hate in general. So perhaps that was Narduzzi's like twisted thought.
Yeah, real galaxy brain idea from Narduzzi. But no, Dylan, you said it. He and Cignetti and Phil are about to get booed out of the stadium, out of the county, out of the tri-state area on Saturday night. And he made damn sure of it. And it's actually funny. I was talking to Big E from the Oakland Zoo, ran into him before the game, and we were talking about it. And he was saying, I'm really worried about the backyard brawl for a lot of reasons, but also if Dews calls a terrible game, if Phil, looks bad and they don't bench him, we could be in for a really interesting collision course on Saturday, because Saturday they're giving all of the students in the Panther Pit Pat Narduzzi's signature visor. And Dews is going to also be rocking the visor. And I think I don't know how big themes are in college student sections, but they're encouraging people to dress like Pat Narduzzi. And if he just gets booed out of Acrisure on a night that is supposed to be for the students to show admiration for him, that is going to be a terrible look. And he guaranteed it happens.
So give us a number.
Oh, right. The question I was asked. It's still 40 degrees. I mean, he has an extension through like 2030, I think. He is the only coach to have significant success in about 40 years. I still believe in Pat Narduzzi. As insane as that feels to say right now, he has built a foundation. They've been recruiting better year after year. He's found an identity and he's sticking with it. And the players seem to have bought in the past few years up until this point. But I have a couple caveats, and I won't. I'll let us talk about Cignetti and Phil first, but I'm starting to have some significant doubts about the direction of the program under Pat Narduzzi that I didn't have at the start of the season, that I had last season, and he shut me up a little bit. But they have resurfaced because you are never wrong on a take. You're only too early. So I'm going to leave it at 40 and say he is entrenched. He is our guy. He is the second winningest coach in program history. But if his decision-making and conduct the past 2 weeks and the way he's spoken to the media and just his general stubbornness hasn't shaken you to your core a little bit in your belief in him, I don't know.
Is that all?
Yes.
Squid, you got anything there? Got anything to add?
I did have a very bad thought today. I was driving to work, so I was already in a bad mood. And I was like, you know what? Last year we were riding high. We're like, Pat Narduzzi's like the second best coach in the ACC. We were fighting people on Twitter, defending his honor, all this, all that, the disrespect. Like, we're climbing on the rise. But then I thought, like, what if this year goes so bad that Pat Narduzzi just gets pissed off and leaves for Michigan State, and then Heather Lyke leaves for Ohio State, and then we're just like, what the fuck are we now? I don't think there's a 0% chance that happens.
That is a bad thought.
Like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 2% chance that happens.
Do you think
we simulated this season like 1,000 times on NCAA, the new NCAA, that would happen like maybe once. But I think we're going to be okay. There's a better chance that we're just a quarterback away from being back to like our pretty stable 8-ish win team. Hopefully, Narduzzi. I have faith that Narduzzi will turn the page to a new quarterback very, very, very soon. Because his job depends on it. You can't ride with Phil. For your own sake, you need to find out if Nate Yarnell or Christian Veillere are decent. Because if not, you got to go hunting again in the transfer portal. If Veillere or Yarnell are good, then you can say, we'll ride this out this year and hopefully we're better next year. I will say we're at like, I'll say 39 degrees. I'll go one below David, but this was like at 4 a couple weeks ago. So slippery slope approaching. Which way are we going to go?
I'll go 39.5. Split the baby there. I mean, he's not going anywhere yet. I mean, could this spiral completely out of control? Probably it could.
We thought last year was going to spiral out of control, and it didn't.
Right.
Okay, real quick, not to interrupt, Dylan. I wish we went back and looked at our first ever seat check because we were probably around this range for Narduzzi. We were like, if not now, when? That was the big thing, the 2021 season. If you can't win now, when will you? And if you don't win this year, you might have to go. And then 3 weeks later, we just completely disbanded this whole segment because his seat was so cool and we won the ACC championship. I don't believe we're there, but funny in hindsight.
Okay. Well, I think we can all agree that Narduzzi has gained enough goodwill to keep that seat cool for now. There's some ice packs rearing and ready to go. But I'm just going to kick it off with Cignetti. He's at like 97.
Here we go.
There's
no way that I don't even see a situation in which this offense looks competent this year, but they've legitimately been one of the worst offenses in all of the FBS this season. and they were pretty putrid for most of last season. He very clearly is about a decade behind the times, and I just, like Sopranos meme here, I genuinely don't see any reason for keeping him around.
What did you say,
Squid.
99?
I said 97.
I'm going to go 99. I don't see that there's a scenario he's back next year because I don't think we will improve whatsoever. And even if we do, it will not be because of him. So he will either be fired or politely told, like, it's time to retire. And then we can enjoy trying to figure out who we'll get next year.
No. Narduzzi only tries to force successful offensive coordinators into retirement.
Maybe he can go coach IUP next year.
Cignetti says yins, so they'll let him off easy.
Yeah. We talked about it. Local guys get long leashes. No, I think I have to go with 90 because, one, if we do this segment again, I'm going to need somewhere to go from, and I don't think it's going down. 2, Narduzzi gets more defiant with each loss, and I could see us starting just like 1-5 and him being like, actually, so happy you guys asked about Cignetti's play calling. I already re-signed him to an extension, so happy to announce that today. I think he's doing a great job of running this offense, so we signed him through 2026. And I think I'm kidding about that, but the point is, like, the seat check, I don't know if we've ever firmly defined, is it the heat they're facing from the fans or from your administration? Likelihood of getting fired is what, a hot seat really is. I don't know if I trust Narduzzi's offensive coordinator-based decision-making enough to say, yeah, if this guy keeps coaching the way he is coaching, calling games the way he is calling games, I'm certain Narduzzi will make him walk, because I'm not.
My biggest fear is that they put in Veer and he looks like pretty good, and they do the same thing the Steelers did with Matt Canada, and they go, well, you can't fire him because then he'd have to learn a whole new system, and that would ruin his whole development. Because they know playing for a terrible coordinator is bad for your development. Getting a good coordinator is good.
Yeah, I agree, Squid. I think, well, if Veer looks any good, it's the defense like, well, we got a new quarterback in. He's learned the system. Imagine another year in the system. He'll look great. Yeah, I'm done with Cignetti. Like I haven't wavered too much. I think I've pretty much been out on him, but near the end of last season, felt like the offense was kind of figuring things out, and bringing in Jurkovec, that's his guy. If it looks good, he'll get the ball to playmakers. We've got the running back in Rodney Hammond. We've got the wide receivers. Kind of, we talked ourselves into the receiving group. We've got the tight end in Gavin Bartholomew, and then none of them have really been incorporated whatsoever. Not completely to Cignetti's fault. I mean, the quarterback play has been putrid, but I mean, it's just been abysmal on the offensive side of the ball.
The decision-making, the play calling and personnel utilization has been abysmal. Guys who absolutely need to be in on certain drives, sitting on the sidelines, predictable play calling. Gavin Bartholomew didn't get a target until the fourth quarter? That is very clearly our best player. Clear as day, the best player on the offense.
Well, this is a good time to transition to the quarterback, and we can play the who's more at fault game. We did it last year with Slovis and Cignetti, and now I don't know if we want to choose who's more at fault. I think we're just pretty content saying that they both stink and they deserve equal blame.
99 for the temperature.
I'm going 100 degrees for Phil Jurkovec. I was sitting around just thinking about Pitt football. Like, what am I doing here? But I tried naming of a quarterback who I thought was worse than him, and it was like extremely hard.
Can I give you some? Can I hit you with a dick bomb?
Throw me some names. Hit me with a dick bomb. Anything.
So this isn't actually courtesy of Uncle Dick, but I kind of like to think that he's speaking through me right now, as I always try to channel him. Guess how many Power 5 quarterbacks who've attempted more than 75 passes have a worse passer rating than Phil Jurkovec?
None.
I saw your text earlier, so I won't spoil it.
2. Fun little side fact. Guess what conference both those quarterbacks play for?
Big Ten.
Big Ten, and one of them is Jeff Sims. Moving on to my second, more fun fact. Guess how many FBS quarterbacks who have attempted 60 or more passes have a worse completion rate than Phil Jurkovec?
0.
Correct. It's 0. 0 is the number. He's playing at a level that nobody else in the country is. Even Jeff Sims has a higher completion rate.
I was thinking about it. Go back to my Pitt quarterback thought. I was like, dude, DiNucci was like a lot better than Jurkovec. And I'm like, I can't even think of guys that were that bad. Like even Tino at his worst was better.
There's going to be some revisionist history here with people who are like, well, Ben DiNucci played in the NFL. But people who watched him at Pitt were like, come on. Another Pine Richland guy. Sounds like they should stop taking quarterbacks from Pine Richland.
Unless Eric Kasperowitz wants to be an offensive coordinator at the D1 level, which sign me the fuck up.
One of those quarterbacks started their career at Notre Dame, was an All-American. The other went to Penn, and we took them because we had no quarterback recruits. And now I'm saying the one that we took just for shits and gigs, so we had no other options, was 20 times better than the other.
So my question is, and John, I'm going to agree with you. I'm at 100 degrees, but I want to hear from you guys. What is it going to take for him to be benched?
Narduzzi is stubborn, but like I said before, for his own sake, he needs to pull Phil Jurkovec. You need to win games. You will not win any ACC games with him under center, and you have a stable of quarterbacks that might be all right. So figure out who the next guy up is.
I think if he looks bad,
he should have been pulled last game.
If he looks bad, yeah, I know. So that's why I'm trying to collect my thoughts here. So I think Narduzzi's talking a big game to the media right now. I think he's doing we know what's going on. We believe in Phil, because you have to say that. He can't come out and say Phil has sucked. Like it's nothing good comes from that.
Everybody else is saying it for him. Yeah,
I was going to say that's what we're here for. And he can't say, I'm taking the reins from Frank next game. So he's in the press conference saying, I trust in Frank's personnel decisions. But at the end of the day, Pat Narduzzi gets paid to win football games. And I think at some point, Pat Narduzzi is going to look up, watch him getting his head kicked in by Mac Brown on his home stadium in their first ACC game. And he's going to have enough. And he's just going to say, I don't care, put Christian in. Or I don't care, put Nate in. Or whoever you want to try out, put him in, Frank. But I've seen enough. We can't do this anymore. And I don't think Narduzzi's going to be stubborn because he has some misplaced loyalty to Phil. I think Frank Cignetti has probably a real loyalty to Phil. He's known him for a long time, coached him for a long time. But I do think at some point Narduzzi, if Phil turns the ball over a couple times against UNC, they're losing by 3 scores in the second half. I think we could very well see Narduzzi just say, I'm making the call. We got to go somewhere else.
Do you think there's a chance that he doesn't start on Saturday?
No.
No, he's starting. But
I don't know. I'm gonna zag here. I think that it's ACC play now. I know we always joke about the famous Narduzzi quote. It's like, oh, well, the non-conference is like the preseason. Our goal is to win the ACC championship. Yeah, blah, blah, whatever. Shut up. It's ACC play. If you want to get the team to buy in, this team needs a jolt. I'm sure the team has Phil's back because he's a good guy. He's a local guy. But eventually, the defense, the skill position players are going to be like, what are we doing out here? We're playing our tails off, and our quarterback is doing nothing. So this team needs a jolt. And I could see Veyer or Yarnell coming out for the first series against UNC.
I mean, if you're insinuating that there's going to start to be like a locker room reprisal, or at least issues in the locker room if they keep throwing out a guy who shouldn't be playing D1 football right now, I agree. But what I'll say to wrap up this Veyer/Yarnell talk is there's no logical reason to start Phil on Saturday night. None. He only has 1 year of eligibility left, and I think he's shown you beyond question that he's not capable of performing this job. And you have two guys behind him. Well, probably one of them is going to be the starting quarterback next year. They can't play worse, and you would be building for the future. There's no reason not to put them in, except because everybody wants you to. And this is Pat Narduzzi we're talking about, baby. So Pat Narduzzi refusing to bend to the media, bend to the fans, bend to, I don't know. I'd be shocked if one coach inside that facility hasn't said, like, hey, man, what are we doing? He is committed to Phil, and he's going to stay committed to Phil no matter what anyone says until Phil plays terrible again on Saturday. And then it's, okay, yeah, fine. But I put in Veyer because I wanted to put in Veyer, not because you guys all said that I should put in Veyer. Pat's stubbornness only buys Phil, I say, one more half of football at a minimum.
Didn't he say he was leaving that up to Frank Cignetti to deal with the personnel decisions? That's why
I don't buy that.
Me either.
I hope not.
I know Narduzzi said it, but yeah, I don't buy it either. I think he's saying it because it's the right thing to say, and he's not going to throw Frank under the bus. The only people he seems to be willing to throw under the bus right now are the offensive line, which he seems to do a couple times.
Anybody that's ever personally wronged him. He's really loyal to his guys until they transfer or seek a promotion elsewhere. Then he can shell them at press conferences. So just to put a bow on all this, if you are pissed that we are doing this segment, but still somehow have made it, 30 minutes into it, please understand, we are not calling for Narduzzi's head. We do not actually think that we should be reconsidering his position as the Chris Bickle head coach of Pitt football. We do this segment to get a gauge on the program from a 30,000-foot view and the direction that it is going. And we are doing it now because we are concerned. Because given the offensive performance last year until they kind of sloppily put it together at the end of the season, and what we've seen at the beginning of this year, there are very reasonable questions to ask about what this program is doing with all of the momentum it built up the last 2 years. Very reasonable questions to ask.
Yeah. I'm a little worried about the Boo City Panthers.
Hail, loyal sons of Boo City.
Are you or someone you know looking for work in a recession-proof industry? Are you someone that's interested in things like having health care, having a 401k, immediate PTO accrual, an employee assistance program, or referral payouts? Our newest sponsor, Haddad Accelerated Delivery, an Amazon delivery partner, is looking for safety-minded and dependable drivers to join their delivery service team. Be a part of a company that will encourage self-ownership and award bonuses based on exceptional safety and delivery efforts. This is the ideal gig for individuals seeking full-time work or students interested in making some pretty good money during breaks. If you or someone you know is safety-focused, hardworking, organized, efficient, and team-oriented, text HADD to 464-646 to apply. I understand that is an impossible string of letters and numbers, so here it is again. That's HADD to 464-646. For a job that's the total package, get it? Because, it's deliveries. Haddad Accelerated Delivery is the place for you.
Please welcome onto the show, making his loyal son's debut, Pittsburgh Panthers beat reporter for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, Christopher Carter. Christopher, how you doing today, man?
I'm excited. I'm glad to be here, Squid and Dave. This is an exciting time. The loyal Sons been seeing y'all guys around, partied with y'all in Greensboro a little bit of last year. So I'm excited to be on the show finally. I like this.
Yeah, no better time than now, right?
Absolutely. Oh, Jesus. Yeah. Y'all waited for me for the hard days to bring me on. But hey, that's fine. It's still always fun covering Pitt, man. It's my alma mater. I went to law school there, so more than happy to talk about it. But I love covering. It's a great job. I have a great partner in Noah Hiles. So certainly we met you guys there out in Morgantown. And good thing we met you beforehand, because afterhand, it wouldn't have been as fun.
Well, I was across the PA state line whenever Phil threw his third interception. So that would have been a little bit difficult to meet up after the game.
Yeah, we apologize. I'm sure, if there's any loyal Sons listeners that aren't familiar with your work, although I doubt that, because our listeners are very niche and they probably consume all the Pitt sports content. I hope they don't get the wrong impression that we're about to, I assume, say some unsavory things about the program for the next couple minutes.
Hey, my whole thing is objectivity. If we want to be honest about it, we got to be honest. There's things that are struggling, and we can get into, the parts that I think are struggling the most. But also, I think there's parts of it that kind of make this situation really complicated, because I also think this still has the makings to be a good team. I have seen, and we have seen in Pittsburgh, teams saddled by terrible quarterback play that otherwise were very good, and not just with Pitt, but with the Steelers as well. So we can get into it, but I think there's still room on this Pitt team to make progress this year.
So you saw a little bit behind the scenes, more than most. You're at practices. I don't know what you thought of Phil. I don't know how high you were, how much stock you bought. But on the flip side, did you think he could possibly be this bad?
I thought that there were times that he could be. I thought that, but I thought we wouldn't see it until later in the season when they played like Notre Dame or Florida State, and Pitt was just overmatched with talent across the board. I didn't think it would happen in a game that Pitt, as a roster, is just better than West Virginia. And like, that's not me being a Pitt alum saying that and being like, oh, Pitt is better than West Virginia. It's an example of how shameful that loss was for the program. That, Bishop, or whatever his name was, Beanie Bishop, when he was calling out Phil Jurkovec, he said we knew he wasn't good at his job, and that secondary gave up 260 passing yards plus to Duquesne, along with 2 passing touchdowns. That was more than 3 times the amount of passing yards that Pitt had. So like the fact that that's what happened there should be embarrassing for Pitt. And I gotta say, the stuff I saw in practice of Phil, and it wasn't just like, why he was hitting tight passing windows. He was understanding when to throw the ball at different times in the practices that we were allowed to watch. And him and Bub Means looked like they could have been a lethal connection this year. And they still could be if they rekindle their fire. But one thing that happens with college quarterbacks, especially with gunslinger types that I think are more mercurial in their momentum, like Phil Jurkovec, I think that momentum is so huge in their production. When things are going poorly, unless something big happens to snap them out of that funk, they will keep digging and grinding, digging themselves a hole into furthering their mistakes. And that's where I think coaching has to come in and help and say, like, hey, Phil, this ain't your day. We got to calm down. We got to reevaluate. We're going to give Christian a shot here. Not to say that Phil should never get a chance to play quarterback again, but at this point, all you're doing is hurting yourself and hurting your team. I think that's where Phil is that he's experienced some negativity. He's trying to adjust to it, and a lot of his decisions just aren't helping. And he's kind of in the place where I think he's trying to do things really quickly, and he's losing his mechanics, and you're just building on mistake after mistake after mistake to get what you got against West Virginia. And I think that he can turn it around, but the coaches, they kind of need to help him get a reset button so he can have a fresh start.
So how much do you think the fan reaction has played into his spiral? He got booed against Cincinnati. He got booed against West Virginia. He's been getting shredded in the media and on social media. How much do you think that could possibly play into it? Obviously, it's bothering him if he felt the need to make that comment about, if you're a grown-ass man, look at yourself in the mirror.
I think it is bothering him. I think that Phil's a guy that he pays attention to what's said about him, and it's okay to pay attention to it, but it's never okay to let the public know that you pay attention to it. At Notre Dame, when he left, he made it very clear that he felt that he was not given the proper opportunity at Notre Dame when he made his way up. And I have people that I know at Notre Dame that were working there at the time, and they've told me that it wasn't. He didn't handle that situation well, and he was given opportunities. He just didn't capitalize on them. And then, at Boston College, similar things sort of transpired when, he started off pretty decently when he adjusted to the program and, started making plays. That game, I was there for that game against Pitt where he launched like that 50-yard bomb. That was a huge play back then in 2020. And the game that they lost on the extra point in overtime. Still, I'll never forget Paris Ford just standing there looking like what just happened. You're right. Yeah, that was crazy. But like at the same time, he also kind of parted ways on bad terms with Boston College. And I think part of it is that he lets that stuff get into him too much. And I think that's a polar opposite from what we saw from Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett was a dude who people talk trash on this city for years about. And, giving ammunition there, he threw 13 touchdowns and 9 interceptions in 2 straight years. A true Pitt man for doing that, by the way. But he wasn't overly impressive until his final year. But all the criticisms, all the things that were said about him, Kenny Pickett would just be like, that's outside noise. I'm not paying attention to that. I'm focusing on me. And that's what made him the ultimate winner that he was, that led them to the ACC championship. Phil needs to adopt more of that. It's funny. I was just at Mike Tomlin's press conference on Tuesday, and we asked him, what did you think about the crowd, chanting "Fire Matt Canada"? And Mike Tomlin's like, look, we're here to make our fans fat. I think it's fat, sassy, and happy or something like that. Or no, fat, sassy, and spoiled. He's like, we're here to make our fans. We're entertainers. We're in the sports entertainment business. Our job is to entertain. Now, granted, Mike Tomlin is a word wizard that's done this for 15 years, and he's well into his career, and he's a Hall of Fame coach, somewhere down the line. So he's going to have the right answers, whereas a 24-year Phil Jurkovec might not be as wise. But that's the mentality that you still need to approach things with. And I think that Phil lets that stuff get into his head. And quarterback is one of those positions where the throwing motion, the processing of what defenses are doing, the slightest little thing can throw your mentality off and lead to mistakes at the quarterback position. And to me, that's where it is so delicate to manage. And it's one of the biggest things. You need to have a person on your team that understands quarterbacks, that understands how to talk to the quarterback. Even if, like, Mike Tomlin's not a quarterback guru, but he knew how to talk to Ben Roethlisberger at times. He knows how to talk to Kenny Pickett. And I think that that's where you need a coach like that. And it doesn't seem like Pat Narduzzi is doing that right now. with Phil, and maybe he'll get him to turn around. I've seen Pat Narduzzi turn around some crazy seasons, including that 2020 season where they lost 4 straight and they were playing Florida State on the road. I was there in Tallahassee. They come out, they win their last 4 games, and they played very well. Not the last 4, but they win, I think, 4 of their last 5 that year, and looked a lot better. Pat can do that with Phil, great. But I think that it's a bit of a project right now that they need to get him to, again, hit the reset button.
The idea was presented to me that the Panther fans should do with Phil what Philly fans did with Trey Turner, and just kind of sarcastically give him standing ovations anytime he does anything. What do you think about that idea?
That would actually be really funny. I think I'm of the opinion, and I'm not saying that anyone is bad for booing or doing things like that. I'm of the opinion that if I am a fan and I'm coming somewhere to root for you, I am not going to boo my own team, or I'm not going to jeer my own team, or do things like that. I am going to, if I'm displeased, I'm just not say nothing. I'm gonna just be like, hey, that's just kind of how I was raised. Like, when I messed up, there were times my old man got on me and my mom, but the times that hurt the most when they just looked at me and they were like, we're disappointed. And like, that was the time that you were like, man, like I let them down. Like, oh, and to me, like that to me would be even louder than booing in the right situation. But again, you're told, and also I think that booing is just, you want your guys to get out of the funk. So that's not how I do it. But again, everyone operates differently. I don't think that, the sarcastic, I think it would be really funny. Like, I would certainly write about that and be like, this was hilarious if someone did that. But I'm not so sure that that's what's needed with Phil. I think what's needed with Phil, one, is a chance for him to kind of step back outside of the game, look at things from an outside perspective, and then come back at it with a new approach and kind of getting a chance to reset things. I really think it's what he needs, but that's a coaching thing. But I think from the fans' perspective, just try to be there for Pitt in the ways that you can, so that if they do rebound this year, you're there to see it. Now, granted, I don't blame anyone for saying, like, if that dude's out there again on Saturday and he sucks, I'm not sticking around to see this butt kicking. Like, I get that. But I think that's how you can be loud about things. The Pirates have started to have to hear that too, because when people were like, I'm not going to a Pirates game, they're not trying to win. I think that speaks louder than anything else. And I'm not encouraging Pitt fans to not show up, because we know the whole attendance debate that go or tagline that a lot of people that don't like the Pitt football program or Pitt anything program will throw
They're
at
a field day this Saturday.
Oh, I think it's going to be that. I agree with UNC in town. There's probably going to be a lot of Tar Heels fans in attendance, and Pitt fans might have a
Cranberry.
Yeah. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be rough. But I also think that part of this is for Pitt fans. One thing I think that I've really admired about Pitt fans is the ones that are diehards like yourselves. When you stick in there and you see through the worst, and then you can truly appreciate the best. Like when you're in Greensboro last year, basketball, you saw all the moments just like that. How could they blow this? They lost to Citadel. They lost their 4-star recruit right after they lost to Citadel. Man, I've been through pain. But when you're there for that moment and you're seeing Greg Elliott hug Heather Like after they win the play-in game in Dayton, and you're in Greensboro and you're seeing them beat another team, that stuff means so much, and it builds authentic fan experiences. That's the stuff that if you're a Pitt fan, if you're a real Pitt fan, you want to be a part of it. That's why you go to the things and suffer through the things. And even if you suffer in silence, like there's times I'm like, I've been to Pirates. I grew up in Pittsburgh. I love it when the Pirates are good, even though I've only had 3 years of it in my life. It is exciting stuff, and there's like an old-timey baseball thing in my family that I do enjoy. But when they suck, I'll go to a game. I'm gonna just be like this. I'm just be like, here we go. All right, they doing it again. I was at the game Sunday. They won Sunday. Good for them. But I think that's just the approach that I personally would prefer, is the thing like, hey, if you're there for the suffering, when the real stuff happens, you're gonna feel a lot prouder about it.
Yeah, last year, the end of the season felt real rewarding because a lot of people sold their stock on Pitt, and they went out the last month of the season in the bowl game. So we've seen it done before. I think you alluded to the fact that you think you think Phil needs to be benched, but how much longer of a leash does he have? Does he trot out there for the first drive on Saturday?
I know you're not gonna like hearing this, but he's gonna be trotting out there for the first drive
Oh.
on Saturday. Just my opinion of studying how this situation is. I think Pat Narduzzi and David is not happy over there. And David, this is what Noah and I were trying to tell you, before the game on Saturday. It was like, we're not saying that Phil's gonna light it up, but we're saying no matter how bad he is, they're not pulling him. And even I
nailed that.
Like this was as bad as it got. And Noah even went back and found a quote from Pat Narduzzi way back in training camp where he was like, Phil's going to win is our starter. But like, if he comes out and plays poorly and throws a whole bunch of interceptions, we were going to reevaluate because we believe in Christian Veilleux and Nate Yarnell. That ain't happening. So I think part of this is that this is the new age of college football where the transfer portal is oh so important, and you need to hit on that to be successful. And NIL is such a big factor. And I think Pat Narduzzi sees in his head with Phil Jurkovec that he's the guy he brought in, that he promised this whole thing. And that if he just cuts bait with him really quickly, it will be a sign to other future transfer quarterbacks that don't go to Pitt, because if I mess up for a game or two, I'm going to be out of a job. And I know you're probably about to say, well, what about Alabama? What about Nick Saban? What about, all these other things? And what about the other positions who have been benched, for Jason Collier, PJ O'Brien?
I was going to say all of those things. So that's a great catch by you.
Yeah, because so that was the thing. I asked Pat after the game, because we were all trying to needle him and be like, hey, what's the plan with Phil? Why isn't Phil getting benched? He's playing terribly. What's going? And he's like, it's not Phil. It's this. It's that. It's that. It's that. You don't know. And so eventually, I'm like, do you guys have confidence in Christian? And he goes, of course we have confidence in Christian, but we don't dump a guy after one or two bad games, whether it's a cornerback or a tackle or a quarterback. And to be fair to him, I guess they didn't dump on a cornerback or a tackle, just a guard or a safety. And so that like when he said that, there was only like a couple questions left available. So I don't like to hog up media time. So I let other people ask their questions. But then first question, Monday at noon, we're at the press conference. I'm like, Pat, I'd like to give you a chance to clarify. You said you guys don't dump people, but you did for these. What's the difference? And Pat was kind of cheeky about it. He was like, what do you mean the difference? You don't know the difference between a quarterback and a safety and a lineman? I'm like, okay, Pat, you know what I'm asking. Why is Phil not being benched when other people are? And eventually he was like, it's a different animal at quarterback. You got to let guys gel, and goes on to say a bunch of things like that.
I got to watch the tape too.
Got to watch the tape.
Lots of tape to watch, boys. Lots of tape to watch with him.
Hope he hasn't been sleeping this week.
I mean, Jesus. But to answer your question, I don't know if there is a leash for Phil Jurkovec, and that may sound terrifying for Pitt fans. I think that what the leash would literally be if the season just gets out of hand, which some Pitt fans may feel it's out of hand right now. They're 1-2. They should be 3-0 right now. They're better than those two teams they lost to. They need to be undefeated. I think what might happen if they lose to North Carolina, and then who's after North Carolina? I know Louisville is
Virginia Tech.
Thank you. If they lose to North Carolina and Virginia Tech, I think Virginia Tech would be the final straw. And I think they'd be like, we're 1-4. This is it, Phil. We gave it a shot. That's where I think that's where they would be like, all right, we're going to give Christian Veilleux a shot because he is at least the bridge to the future, if not the future. And you need to see that. But I think it would take until 1-4 before they actually pulled this plug.
Even if there's more 2-3 interception games with like barely over triple-digit yards.
You think Phil has 2 more strikes left?
I'm not saying he should, guys. I'm just saying the read that I have on Pat. And yes, that should be alarming. I agree. Like, this isn't a good thing. This isn't me saying that Phil should have 2 more strikes left. I think Phil should have been benched after that second interception in the West Virginia game. I think he should have been sat down. And again, my whole thing was, if you sit down Phil, then you say, Phil, you don't got it tonight. Thanks for your efforts. Stay focused. You're going to get another shot this season at some point. Just stay locked in. Christian, get in there and just show him what you got. And if Christian sucks, Phil's back out there next week. But
at least
game. Right. But if he wins the game, then you have a good quarterback controversy going on. But it seems like Pat doesn't want a controversy. He wants there to just be a starter. And to be fair, he stuck with Kenny Pickett through a lot of thick and thins, and it led to him having an ACC championship. So maybe he's leaning on that. Pat admits he's not a quarterback guru or a quarterback whisperer. I just think he's making a big mistake by giving Phil too much of a leash.
So you obviously know better than we do. Do you think that this is indicative of perhaps a less than rosy view of Christian Veilleux? Because there are a lot of fans, us included, in the past week who have started to ask that question about what does this say about our future at quarterback that Narduzzi isn't willing to cut from a one-year rental who has turned down Pitt twice already for the guy that has been anointed the starter to the next 2 seasons. Is there something we should be worried about?
I think that with Veilleux, I think that it's that he has not sold them that he is necessarily the future just yet. He could very well, he could be just fine. I also don't think Pitt needs a superstar right now. They just need an average quarterback.
A guy.
Just complete the throws that are there. That's all Nick Patty was. As fun as it was to root for Nick Patty, and as awesome of a moment the Sun Bowl was, Nick Patty was just a dude who could do what he was coached to do. He wasn't elite. Go ahead.
He was also a dude.
Oh, absolutely. You wanted to fight for that guy. And
yes.
I've talked to Pitt players who are like, nah, if someone hit when Patty got hurt in the Peach Bowl, they was pissed. They was mad about that. They was granted, it wasn't like a dirty hit. He was diving for the pylon. They were like, oh, not Nick. There's a lot of confidence there. Christian ain't that. But I will say that I think that there's skepticism to say if he's going to be the guy, and they've seen Phil in practice be the guy, at least looked good at certain times. And so they're trying to bank on that. But I do think there's a lack of confidence in Christian maybe being the total future. But I think that Phil, Phil's not. You see that he's struggling right now. This is his last year of eligibility. You can't get him for another one after this anyways. Give Christian a shot. I'm on the same page with you guys, but just knowing what I know inside the organization, knowing what I've, just how I've just studied Pat Narduzzi, his stubbornness is going to get in the way of that.
You've upset Squid so much he just kicked over a china cabinet, I think.
I heard. I was like, what happened over there?
The laptop needed charged, and I knocked over a garbage can, and I was also very alarmed and mad at what you said. So, yeah, all the above.
Yeah.
So you think there's a better chance that Noah Hiles suits up at quarterback this week than Christian Veilleux?
Listen, as soon as he said that, I'm like, oh, buddy, you have no idea what ammunition you've given Noah Hiles. Because every time he was like, you guys know I tackled Jesse James. Yes, no, we know you tackled Jesse James. And yes, no, we know about your great past as a player. But I think Pat has those moments where he tries to be funny, and there's times he is funny.
On Monday.
What'd you say?
There are a lot of those on Monday.
Boo City, baby, Boo City.
What was it like being in that room?
Y'all, what'd you say?
What was it like being in the room, especially on Monday? I'm
We
sure
all
there's
just
always a
completely-
few little knee slappers, eye rolls. There were 19 or 20 on Monday. It seemed like
we just, there's times where you look at each other and you're like, did he just really say that? The Boo City things. And again, there's ways to deflect. And again, this is where Mike Tomlin is so good with media. He is the master of telling us nothing. And to be honest, my dad was a high school football coach. The way I watch coaches, your job is to say nothing. Your job is to tell the press as much, give the press all the words and the motivation and all that nonsense that actually doesn't mean jack. And give them some stuff, give them meat to grind on. Mike Tomlin has his Tomlinisms, and the Tomlinisms are somewhat real. But your job is to protect your team, to not let the media get inside of your team. And even though it's my job as a reporter to get inside of your team, my job is to do that. I appreciate a coach who does that well, and Mike Tomlin does it very well. There's times where I can ask a question to Mike Tomlin, I'm trying to sneak my way in, and he will cut it off. He's like, "Nah, I'm not gonna go there." I was like, and then he'll give me a whole answer that talks about all this stuff and it addresses elements of the things that I am, but he doesn't answer my question, and I'm like, I see what you did there. That was very smart to block me off. But Pat will sometimes do that. Other times, Pat will hit you with a Boo City, or he'll go on a monologue and he'll say, "Chris, you know, when you play the way you play, you got to play over here. But when not over here, you're actually over there. And you only know that if you watch the tape." And like the other day, this is actually a perfect example. Last Thursday, I talked about, hey, West Virginia, what does their offensive line do that your defensive front has to key in on? What are the keys they have to read to adjust to what they do? And I knew Pat wasn't going to want to answer this, because if he says what things they're watching for from the Mountaineers can see that published and then be like, okay, so they're looking for these things. Let's plan around that, right? So he doesn't want to give them any ammunition. So what he says is, instead of an answer that kind of gets away, he's like, "Well, Chris, it's not about keys." And I'm like, "Oh, it's not? Okay." He's like, "It's just about hitting them in the mouth and getting physical, and we just need to beat them to the punch." And he goes on. And at the end of it, he's like, "But we do need our linebackers to know their keys." And I'm like, so it is about the keys. Like, but it's just like, so now you've kind of contradicted yourself. And I'm sitting here like, again, I like Pat. I have a good relationship with Pat. At least I think so. He and I have had some good talks. He's given me some really good recommendations to people outside of the team about my reporting. So I appreciate Pat. But being honest, there's times I'm like, "Pat, what are you doing here, man? Like, why'd you even say that?" And there's times I'm just like, "Oh boy, like this is gonna be like," when he said Boo City, I'm like, there's gonna be Boo City shirts out there for sale. Especially,
yeah, we're working on one.
I was like, you guys better be leading the charge here. But yeah,
so
that's my opinion of Pat.
I'm almost deigned to ask, what do you think about this upcoming matchup against ranked UNC and Heisman hopeful Drake May, future top 2 pick Drake May?
I'll say this. I have been surprised many a times by Pitt football, both in bad ways and in good ways. I've also been not shocked when they've gotten skull drugged, which very well could happen, most likely will happen this Saturday. But as I've said before, this team, I think, as a whole, if they had an average quarterback or just average quarterback play, this team could bang with most teams in the ACC, including North Carolina. I think that they have an offensive line that does need to be better, but it's getting better, and I think that they'll get there. I think they have playmakers on offense that if they just are given the ball in reasonable spots, not in great throw situations, doesn't have to be Kenny Pickett, 2021. I'm just talking about even Keaton Slovis kind of last year. I think that they're still a competitive team. I think they're a defense that if you gave them a lead to work with, they could be a really dangerous unit. That was the other thing.
Or a long field.
That too. Or both. It'd be nice to have both. But I think that this is still a team that could very well hang with North Carolina. But if Phil Jurkovec comes out and does what he did against West Virginia or against Cincinnati, I know he threw 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, but he had 32% completion rate, and you can't have that. But if he doesn't come out and sustain drives, if he doesn't come out and execute, they're going to get the snot kicked out of them. And it's going to be embarrassing. It's going to be sad. And it's going to be even more sad because I think there's a lot of guys in this team that don't deserve to be part of that losing effort. I think Gavin Bartholomew is a fantastic tight end. He's the Corvette being left in the crappy garage. I think that Rodney Hammond is better than that. I honestly think Cignetti, Mumfield, and Bub Means are better than what we've seen. I know Bub Means has kind of messed up a little bit more than Mumfield so far, but I think both of those guys, if they had a decent quarterback play this year, they could both light it up this year. And I think this defense, I mean, honestly, and I said this, the defense had nothing to hang their heads about after West Virginia. All the things that they went through, they battled, and yes, they gave up some rushing yards to C.J. Donaldson. I think that guy's going to the NFL so long as he doesn't keep getting injured. But that defense, they get after the quarterback still. I mean, you think about this. They're I think like what, 5th in the ACC in sacks right now. So you're kind of looking at that and being like, uh-oh. But that's because they haven't had leads to pin their ears back on. That's where they built it, was when they would play teams and they would get up and they would just say, hey, it's time to go get the quarterback. And then they would do that very well. So I think that this defense is still talented. I think that there's talent on both the offensive playmakers and the offensive line, but all of that can get neutralized by a terrible quarterback play. And that's what happened against West Virginia. That's what's happened against Cincinnati until like the fourth quarter. And we've seen it with the Steelers. I mean, go back to the Steelers. If you're a big Steelers fan, 2003, Tommy Maddox, that team was terrible. It's the last time that Pittsburgh has had a losing record for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You flip in Ben Roethlisberger the next year. And then like the start of the next season, 2004, they barely beat meh Raiders team. Then they get beat the tar out of by the Ravens. And then they go 15-1. And Ben Roethlisberger wasn't great his rookie year. He was just meh. But he was meh with some gusto on a team that had a kick-butt defense, a really good offensive line, and running backs out of hell, and some good wide receivers. And all it took was a quarterback to be just decent instead of terrible. And that is what I think could happen if Pitt either gets a turnaround from Jurkovec, or Veyer or Yarnell come in and just give them, again, doesn't have to be Patrick Mahomes, doesn't have to be Drake May or Caleb Williams. Just be decent. Be Nick Patty. And I think this team would have a shot against North Carolina.
So you heard it here first. Christian Veyer is the next Ben Roethlisberger.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Now, you're a journalist. You should be used to getting everything you say taken out of context.
Trust me, I am.
So there's no way we could trick you into a score prediction for UNC Pitt, is there?
Man, can I see the whole week of practice before I give score predictions?
Okay. It is only Tuesday. It is only Tuesday.
Well, I'll tell you this. You guys, what's the game? 8:00. You guys let me know where you hanging out outside of Acrisure Stadium before Saturday. I'll come by and give you a score prediction before then.
We'll give you some Big Shot Bob's wings in return.
Listen, some Big Shot Bob. Give me that Frankie White, baby. I love me some Big Shot Bobs. They got all the wing sauces. And the thing is, my problem is, okay, I'll give you guys a great little insider story that I have. And this is for the record so that you guys can have this on your show and everything. I'm telling them a lot of scoops in the background, y'all. But in all seriousness, so y'all know Mike Tomlin loves some wings. You know, he took Malik Willis famously out for wings. And that's the thing that like Mike Tomlin, like, you know, and most people love wings, right? So there's one day in Steelers training camp practice last year where I saw a storm coming and I was like, that's going to hit this field soon. I'm getting to the press conference room early. So I just run to the press conference room. Sure enough, storm hits. Mike Tomlin's brought down in a cart and it's just me and him sitting in the press conference room. Now, Mike Tomlin, like I said, master deflector. If he don't want to talk to you, he won't. And even if he'll even talk to you without talking to you, like he'll just deflect what you say and not really give you any information. But I'm figuring like, hey, I won't ask him anything team related. I'll just, ask him something casually. And I'm like, hey, Mike, what's your favorite wing sauce? Or and he's like, and so I'm thinking like, I can get some back and forth here because I love chicken wings. Mike goes, I don't have a favorite wing sauce. And I'm like, come on, Mike. Like, I'm trying to develop some personality here. But then I kind of just, I don't like react to that. I'm like, okay, I guess. And so I'm like, well, I'm disappointed that Mike doesn't want to talk about wings. And then he pauses and he says, the reason I don't have a favorite wing sauce is because I know me. And if I said I had a favorite wing sauce, I would eat that every time I got wings. And that would be boring. So everywhere I go, I ask someone what their favorite wing sauce is so I can try it. And then I get a different experience every time. And so that's why I don't have a favorite wing sauce. And I was like, that's actually kind of cool. And I just learned something. So that's why. So that's my chicken wing story. There is what I've learned, and I kind of fall into that pit. He's actually kind of right. It's kind of what I do. I love Frank White. I love there's certain like 2 or 3 flavors that I kind of rotate between and Big Shot Bob, but they have so many flavors that I gotta try out. And it's funny. It's like every time I go there, I'm like, try this one, but like exactly they keep coming up with more. But that's why Big Shot Bob's is awesome.
Our boy Matt's a wizard with the sauces.
Oh, yes, he is.
So, Christopher, we can't thank you enough for coming on, for sharing your insights, and for doing a very unpaid ad for one of our sponsors. I gotta ask one question though, and it's yes or no answer. Don't want any context beyond it, and it can maybe be a teaser for a future episode. Should Pitt fans be worried about the vacancy in East Lansing?
I was like, the vacancy? Is he about to ask me a stadium question? All right. No.
There you have it, folks. There you have it.
You
Now
said
we
no
can
more
never.
context. So I give
Now
you
we
one- I give
can
you
never
one more.
broach the topic again.
I may be wrong, but my opinion, nah.
Christopher, thanks so much. This was awesome. And hail to Pitt.
This episode of The Loyal Sun Show is brought to you by Rendine Consulting. If you've listened to us for any amount of time, you know all about Rendine Consulting's commitment to the Pitt Athletics program and brand, and how much they've meant to the Loyal Suns. That's Rendine Consulting, providing investment managers assistance with technology integration. Visit www.rendineconsulting.com for more information. That's www.rendineconsulting.com.
It is now time for the Loyal Sons Sportsbook UNC edition, brought to you by Big Shot Bob's, the original Big Shot Bob's. Fellas, I've got some disappointing props here. Not disappointing, just disheartening would be the right word to use. And
Dark.
are you guys ready for this? Are we ready to?
Well, before we start, I would like to give a little rundown of last week, mainly because I won last week. Just throwing it out there, I took the lead for the season. I'm up to 10 points on the year after a 4-point outing last week. All it took was Pitt's worst game of the last decade for me to have some success there. Dylan, second place. Last week, you're still in dead last. And David, for the first time, bottom of the standings for a week.
So where does the total sit?
I am at 10, you are at 9, and Dylan is at 6.
So have we given up on making this like a contest?
No, we'll get something.
Okay. Week 4. It's week 4.
I swear we'll figure something out.
Yeah.
So let's dive in.
Let's just get right into it. The first one, the Boo City prop. Over under 24.5 times Pitt is booed on Saturday night.
What was that line?
24.5.
So this is boo, a play happens, boo again,
Correct.
punt, Drake May throws an 80-yard touchdown, boo again. Okay.
That is a ridiculous line. I'm going to go under. I frankly thought we were going to set this at like 4.5.
That would be absurdly low.
I give it one drive for each team and we get 4.
Are you thinking about how many boos 25 separate occasions of boos would be? Or is the point that this is the Boo City boost and it was boosted up to 24.5 to try to get us to take the under?
See, I don't know. I really want to take the over, but I'm tempted not to just because I think the fans will be tired out and bored of booing. It's like, you know what? I don't even give a fuck anymore. But I'll still take the over. I could see it happening. You guys talked me into thinking that Phil Jurkovec will start this week, and for that reason, I'm going to take the over. If Veyer trots out there for the first series, I will hedge my bet and take like a hard under. But for all intents and purposes, I'm taking the over here. The defense will look bad too, so that's the deciding factor. The offense will look bad. The defense will also look bad.
I went back and watched the film of the Monday Night Football Steeler game. This is how I determined this prop. There were about 25 separate boos throughout the Steeler game, a game that they won, by the way, against an in-division rival. Steeler fans are just about done with Matt Canada. I think Pitt fans have made their thoughts pretty clear on how they feel about Phil Jurkovec. So I say this goes under, and it goes under because Pat Narduzzi finally pulls the plug on Phil Jurkovec in this game, and that's when the fans stop booing. Whether it be because Christian Veilleux throws 2 touchdown passes or just simply because it's a different quarterback throwing incompletions. If he plays the whole game, though, this is going over.
Yeah, I don't mean to be unfun, but I just think 25 is like an absurd number of occasions. But I will say, you do have hope in the fact, like the whole Boo City thing, dude. Like Narduzzi might as well have said, "Please, I am begging you on bended knee, boo until you have laryngitis." So I think that the Pitt fans that show up on Saturday,
All 60,000 of them.
packed stadium is what we're expecting. They are going to really, really let Dues have it. Dues rhymes with booze. Just thought of that. Quick question. So when is the starting point and ending point for when we start and stop counting boos?
Opening kickoff. First play of the game.
I say when they leave the huddle. Or I'm sorry, the tunnel.
When they leave the tunnel to when they walk back into the tunnel.
Deal.
Okay, this won't be on the scoreboard this week, but over under 0.5 offensive snaps it takes for Pitt fans to boo.
They're getting booed out of the tunnel.
I was
Like
gonna
the
say,
second they say Narduzzi's name.
maybe. I was more so thinking when the offense trots out on the field and Phil runs out there with them. I was thinking that would be the first chorus of boos we will hear.
Yes, if Phil takes the field on the first play of the game, there will be boos. If our defense takes the field, I don't think they'll boo right away, but it'll take a few plays, then we'll get a boo.
This will be fun. There's like a very fun might not be the best word, but interesting dynamic around this game on Saturday.
A lot of chaos potential.
A lot of chaos. Okay, well, I mean, this goes hand in hand with the number of boos we'll hear. Over under 99.5 passing yards for Phil Jurkovec Saturday night.
I'll go first. I'll take the under. I think there's a good chance he does not play that long. Even if for some inexplicable reason that he does, there's no guarantee he reaches 100. UNC has a good pass rush, and we have been very bad at protecting the quarterback. And even whenever we do protect him, it doesn't matter because he's not good. And it's going to be under. We've been down this road before. We've said what needs to be said. It's going to be a bad game.
I'm going to go over. I'll go next. I'm going to go over here because I think they're going to leave him in the game a little too long. And it's just so hard to throw for under 100 yards as a starting quarterback at Division I level. He managed to do it last week, but I think he goes over this week. Like I said for the last prop, I still think he may get pulled at some point for Veilleux, or maybe even Nate Yarnell. Who knows? But I'm gonna go over on this one.
There's some wrinkles to this one, which makes it a little bit hard. I'm still trying to decide if I think like he's just going to look terrible and get pulled relatively early in the game, or if they're going to essentially do what they did last year against UNC. The last time that we had a terrible quarterback, you remember last year, where every single play is just a 2-3 step drop and then a chuck it as deep as you can. And that worked for like a quarter and a half until UNC was like, oh, he's just taking a 2-step drop and they're running 4 verts and he's launching it as far as he can. Let's guard against that. And then the wheels come off. I can't quite decide what I think is going to happen. But
all it takes is like 1 or 2 of those deep balls for the over to hit.
I know, but I think I'll still go under.
There it is.
Do you think there's a chance he goes under if he plays the whole game?
Oh, you mean what he did this past week?
Right. Well, maybe the order of the... Do you think he'll play the whole game? Do you think there's a chance he could go under 100 yards and they not pull him?
Absolutely not. Because I will run on the field and rip him off if that's happening. If it's late in the third quarter and he's still sitting at like 68 yards, I am doing something about it.
Squid, you don't really strike me as someone who can deadlift 400 pounds, so I don't know how...
I will steal the ball and they won't play. I will steal every ball.
We're done here. We're done
I'll
here.
steal
All
Phil's
right.
helmet.
All right, moving on.
Over under 2.5 snaps for Christian Veer. Went up from 1.5 last week. Just in
I'll
case
take this one.
They try a couple tricky gadget plays with 2 quarterbacks on the field.
I've got another fun stat for you guys. I hit you with a couple in the last segment. Of the 15 quarterbacks who have started in the ACC so far this season, who do you think has the lowest QBR?
I couldn't even imagine who it is.
No guesses? It's one Phil Jurkovec. And the gap between Phil at 15 and the number 14 quarterback is almost as large as the gap between the number 1 quarterback, Tyler Van Dyke, who I guess is good again, down to the number 6 quarterback. It's not as wide of a gap, but it is very close to as wide of a gap. So not only is he the worst quarterback in the ACC, he's the worst quarterback in the ACC by like a considerable amount. So again, I said in the last segment, Narduzzi got what he wanted. He had his little tantrum of a press conference. He was defiant, and he's sticking with his guy. But then his guy is going to have about 3 drives on Saturday that end exactly how all the other ones did against West Virginia, in either a turnover or no points, and he will throw up his hands and say, fine. Hammer the over for Veer. Veer's finishing this game.
I'll go over. Don't have
I'm
much
also
to add to
going
that.
over. But I have a caveat. The only
Love
reason
those.
this doesn't go over is if Yarnell's his guy. I can see Narduzzi giving the first dibs to Yarnell. I know Christian Veer is the number 2 on the depth chart, and I don't know how close of a battle is between 2 and 3, but he did win the battle for the backup. But maybe as they get into things, they're like, you know what? Yarnell's been here before. He's played in a game in this offense, and we don't want to throw Veer to the wolves after like a quarter. And Yarnell is a safer play. Or maybe he just looks better lately. Weirder things have happened. That's the only way that the over isn't hit.
That would be so consistent with Narduzzi if he was like, fine, I'll do what everyone's telling me to do, but I'm going to do it on my terms in like the weirdest, most galaxy brain way possible by starting our 3rd stringer.
Okay, that's enough bad quarterback props. Let's go with a good quarterback prop. Drake May, reigning ACC Player of the Year, potential first-round pick. over under 3.5 total touchdowns for Drake May on Saturday. So passing and rushing. I'll start us here. I think he's going to absolutely shred Pitt. Defense has looked good. They've also played two teams that suck the last 2 weeks in these games that they've lost. I also think there might be a little bit of fatigue from that defense. If the offense doesn't improve this week and can't sustain drives and can't put any points on the board, I think that eventually there's a breaking point, and I think that kind of happened in the UNC game last year when Drake May picked them apart. I think this goes over. I think he probably throws for 3, runs for 1, something like that. I think he's going to have a big game on Saturday night.
I'm going over as well. I think it's going to be similar to last week where the defense starts off like playing kind of strong, formidable, but the offense can't do anything at all. So they're on the field a lot and they just hit a wall and can't keep up with UNC's offense. And Drake May makes us look very stupid. Give me the over.
I agree with everything you guys have said for all of the same reasons that you said. I think it could be an avalanche effect. The defense has performed nobly, but you can only do so much against Drake May. You can only do so much when you're on the field the entire game. You can only do so much when you're forking over the ball on your own 20, inside your own 20. And I have to imagine morale is pretty low team-wide right now, which will play into it.
All going over?
Yep, we are unanimous.
For what it's worth, Drake May has not scored 3 touchdowns in a game yet this season, and we're all looking for 4.
Mac Brown did say that they have been running the ball a lot more this year. Their running attack is better than years past, but I think Drake May's QBR is a lot higher than it has been in the past. So the big numbers might not be there, but he is playing very well from what I've gathered in like 9 minutes of research. So this might be the game they're like, fuck it, we're getting Drake on the Heisman watch list. It's 8 o'clock. It's on national TV, right?
ACC Network.
Yeah.
Kind of national.
Oh, so the whole world will be watching.
Yes.
Exactly. The whole Atlantic coast. First touchdown score. No one scored last week. Surely it can't happen 2 weeks in a row.
If we take no touchdown scored, how many points is that?
3.
That's painfully low. I'm going to get weird. I'm going Sebo. Don't really have a reason why. I think he might just get a goal line carry for like Pitt's lone touchdown of the day.
On the inverse, can I get half a point for saying someone from Pitt will score?
No.
Like literally just like
No.
a player in a Pitt uniform will score a touchdown.
No.
Okay.
Give it like 1 or 2 more weeks and we might get there.
Hammond. Is that still worth 1 point, considering he hasn't gotten 15 touches in a game yet?
Yes. Just out of principle.
Whatever, dude.
I mean, I'll just round it out with the running backs. I'll take Dan Carter. Stay with the theme here and don't have much faith in any passes being caught for touchdowns right now after what we've seen. So,
Good.
All right, fellas. This one hurts, but we have to do it. The line for the game, I most recently checked today. We're recording on Tuesday evening, and I saw the line at 7.5. Pitt plus 7.5. Opened at 6.5. Swung a point. I wouldn't be surprised if it swings another point or two come Saturday. I need to know, are they going to cover? And what's the score going to be? David?
This is a Vegas knows something line if I've ever seen one.
This is a Vegas hasn't caught up to just how bad Pitt's quarterback play has been.
Oh, no. I disagree. You think Vegas doesn't know something? What do you think is more likely, Dylan? That they don't know that Phil is bad, or that they are saying, like, yeah, Deuce doesn't lose 3 games in a row, or at least he doesn't get blown out? Maybe they know that we're doing something different this week, starting a different quarterback. I don't know. So I will just say I am not going to be shocked if Pitt wins this game. I'm going to be even less shocked if they cover and keep it close, because Pitt just finds a way to turn games into rock fights and make games they should lose competitive. But I'm still going to go with the logical play, like what my brain is telling me, and say Pitt does not cover. UNC covers, and they win 42-21.
A lot of offense. A lot of offense from Pitt. 21 points.
Have you ever heard of a term called garbage time?
I have.
Okay.
I will go UNC 37, Pitt 17. This is the second time. I think this is the second time I've picked against Pitt in a game. David as well. I think we've picked against Pitt twice, and both have come against North Carolina. So sad. Hopefully there's not many more to come, but I can see there being more losses predicted to come. This would have been a great bit if we just pick Pitt to win it. Pick Pitt to win every week, but we're not there. Drake May scores a lot. Vair comes in, looks competent, and we get a touchdown or 2.
Fellas, the Canadian saves us. The Hab comes in early in the game. I'm talking first quarter. Narduzzi pulls the plug. I can't do this right now. Pitt will not cover. They will lose. Let's say 27-14. Offense puts up a couple scores. I just don't see it. And I hate to pick against Pitt. I don't know if I did it at all last year. I think I always talked myself back into a winner. Can't really remember. Yeah, I can't do it this weekend after what we've seen the last 2 weeks. What I saw last week down in Morgantown. I have no faith in the offense to put up a fight against a team who has a legitimate big-time quarterback who can score in bunches. So, yeah.
And apparently a crazy good pass rush.
Yeah, pile on, why don't you? 27-14. I really hope Pitt can make this a competitive game. I hope we see something different. I hope some switch flips, whether it's Phil figures some things out, whether it's the running game figures some things out, whether it's a new quarterback at the helm. I really hope a switch flips, because right now it feels like we're in for a long season. So, but I just don't see it Saturday night. We'll see if we stick around to the end of the game. I think that's a more interesting prop here. Maybe we should have kept that. Do we all stay until the fourth quarter?
This being an 8 p.m. game makes that a lot harder.
Wow, at the cheap and when it's convenient, Sons.
Yeah.
I will say, though, I will not bat an eye if Pitt wins this game and Phil looks great.
Oh, I will. My
Shut up.
I might go blind.
You shut your mouth.
Are we forgetting the weirdness factor of Pitt football? That just when you think you have something figured out, they zag. Just when they look like a world beater, they lose to 6-6 Miami at home. Just when they look like the worst team in college football, they beat number 2 Miami. Like this is still Pitt we're talking about, and the fact that the line is only -7.5 and not 2,000 tells me Vegas knows something. So I'm just saying, I'm going to be at a wedding. If I check my phone and Pitt is going punch for punch with UNC, I won't even flinch.
Let's get a polygraph over there.
We'll see. We'll see. I hope they make it competitive. And I will say, I hate to do this, like, and be such a pessimist, but like, this is one of the least excited I've been to go to a home game, and as long as I can remember. I don't really remember like probably the DiNucci, Max Brown season.
I'm excited to see all the UNC fans driving from Cranberry, the powder blue.
We are so down on Pitt football that is the first time this episode we've made that joke. That is pathetic of us. That is pathetic of us.
Yeah. Whatever, man. Go Pitt. I hope they win. I think. I'm so confused right now.
Thank you again to Christopher Carter from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette for joining us to preview this matchup against the University of North Carolina Tar Heels. Gentlemen, that was a great moping session. We are almost done. We are almost free to return to the parts of our life that don't make us sad. But before we do that, I'd like to hear any final thoughts that you might have, brought to you by Gurrera Law. Squid, outside of, the backyard brawl, what was the best and worst thing that happened to you this week?
Best. Watching that Kenny Pickett pass to George Pickens was like a huge weight off my shoulders. I finally got to see a quarterback make a good play. The worst was basically just like anything else.
Wow. It almost
Maybe it was more specifically driving to Morgantown, watching the game, and driving back, and then having to be up for like 3 hours later. That probably takes the cake.
I specifically said nothing Pitt related.
I said the drive to and from Morgantown.
Whatever, man.
That was also bad.
Regardless, gee, Squid, it sure sounds like the human experience is full of ups and downs, highs and lows. Some days you're enjoying a Kenny Pickett-led win over the Cleveland Browns. Some days you are, I don't know, maybe getting into a fender bender on Bigelow Boulevard. And maybe your insurance company isn't treating you fairly, or maybe other firms won't take that case seriously. If you find yourself in that situation where you need help, call Guido at Gurrera Law. He will help turn your losses into an ACC championship win, and it's probably the closest you'll come to an ACC championship win for a while. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I had to. Anyway, that's GurreraLaw.com. GURRERALAW.com. 412-229-7757. Licensed in Pennsylvania and Ohio. Guido is located in Pittsburgh. All right. Final thoughts. Who would like to begin?
I'll kick it off. We've just been moping and bitching and crying all episode about our college football team. And we haven't really been able to enjoy how fun and weird this college football season across the country could end up being. It feels like we're finally going to get a playoff that isn't Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson. I guess we had Michigan last year, but you look at the AP top four right now. It's Georgia and Michigan. Okay, they were both in it last year, but then Texas and Florida State. You got USC, Ohio State. Not going to say who's number 7. Washington, Notre Dame, Oregon. Like there could be some parity. It looks like there's going to maybe be a little bit of parity, and I don't know. That's fun. It's fun that there's some different teams up at the top. Alabama down to 13 in the AP poll this week. is Alabama done? Are they dead? I don't know. But college football, I mean, this whole slate this weekend, we've got Oregon, Colorado, 10 versus 19. We've got UCLA, Utah, 11 versus 22. Alabama, Ole Miss, 13 versus 15. Just a loaded slate. Oregon State, Washington State, 14-21. Like, oh, and then Ohio State, Notre Dame, 6 versus 9. Nice at night. And then there's a game somewhere else in the state of Pennsylvania, I think. They wear a certain color, apparently. But
Ghosts.
yeah, so college football could be really fun this year. So I don't blame you, Pitt fans, if instead of getting down to the tailgate lots 5 hours before the game, if you just want to maybe watch some games on TV and make your way down for kickoff.
Or you can watch one or tailgate TV. We'll be tailgating somewhere at some point.
Yeah, if you don't tailgate the games, you don't get no Big Shot Bob's wings. That's the rules. So come down, just watch on the TV. But yeah, Dylan, this is shaping up to be a very fun, very chaotic year of college football. I mean, Georgia and Ohio State look mortal, which is always fun for the sport. There are 8 Pac-12 teams in the top 25. Do you know what's not going to exist next year? The best conference in college football right now. And also, I called it. Fuck you, Squid. I called it.
Oh, yeah? Well, did you bet on Alabama and Ohio State to not make the playoff during week 1?
Can you do that?
Yes. And
What were the odds on that sort of thing?
It was pretty close to even, actually. This was I just thought their quarterbacks both kind of stunk. I guess Kyle McCord could still win this weekend and they would jump up into like the playoff picture, but I'm not banking on him being good. So yeah, I'm counting my chickens before they hatch, whatever. But yeah, it'll be good to not see those teams just churn out new quarterbacks each year who are somehow really good. Their fan bases are suffering like us. They're the same as us. So haha.
Squid, you want to go?
Yeah. Good Pitt. We're going to talk about some good Pitt right now. Was it Thursday? Wednesday? Middle of the week last week, I went to my first ever Pitt volleyball match. It was a top 10 matchup between the Pitt Panthers and the Oregon Ducks, and it was electric. I know I'm late to the party here. I'm sure a lot of you have been to a number of Pitt volleyball games as they've been a powerhouse for, I don't know, like 5-6 years now. Finally got around to a game, and they lost, and it was like really, really heartbreaking. They probably should have won, if not for like a couple like late set collapses. But I will be going back to several games this year because I need to watch Pitt teams win, and they will provide wins.
You need to see those colors celebrating.
Mm-hmm.
That is like an upside to improving as an athletic department that I didn't foresee. If our football team returns back to what it was a couple years ago, and again, I don't think it will, but if the football team has an off year, we can say the phrase basketball season's right around the corner and mean it. Or
like
we can watch the volleyball team.
But who's
How
counting?
many?
I believe it's like 46 days until basketball tips off, but who's counting?
46 days until Blake Hinson starts his Naismith campaign. My final thought is a Pittsburgh football team finally gave us something to cheer about. The Steelers won at the time of taping this last night in just a super weird game against the Browns. I will say, though, our guy is having a weird year.
Yeah.
Kenny looks funny right now, and he's started to make a couple throws that we were waiting for him to make last year, like that 71-yard touchdown to Pickens where he put it right on the money despite a dude coming to cave his skull in. Actually, pretty much every pass he completed to Pickens was exactly what we were waiting for last year, but also just making some insanely bad throws on like slants, stuff that he would have never missed last year. And I don't know what to make of it, man. Like, we saw what he looked like in the preseason, and he looked like a world beater. And he started these first 2 games and has not looked insane. It kind of looks a little bit mental to me because he's accurate. He's accurate as all hell, but just making some weird and questionable throws.
Fair points, but I will not say anything negative about Kenny Pickett on this podcast in my life. So it's Matt Canada's fault. For all you out there that said we couldn't fire him because it would hurt Kenny's development, you're an idiot. Look at where we're at right now. Fire Canada, will be fine. Just do it tomorrow. Like, no big deal. Pull the plug.
I, along with Squid, will not be saying anything negative about Kenny Pickett. The O-line stinks, and the offensive coordinator is atrocious. That there have been other quarterbacks playing in this offense, and the offense has looked pedestrian to bad. I mean, it's sure. Did he miss some throws here and there? Yes, he did. He made the one on the sideline that he should have just thrown away, but a Browns defender dropped. That was a bad decision. But I mean, I'm watching Kenny get the ball in the shotgun snap and immediately have to start running for his life. And then I'm watching these plays where I don't think a middle school offensive coordinator would have called in that situation. So I don't think it's the best situation. I really hope they figure it out over these next couple weeks, get the offense clicking on all cylinders, because despite that win, offense looked absolutely horrendous. But not Kenny's fault.
No, not Kenny's fault. And I hope what I said wasn't interpreted as an insult against Kenny. Even the greatest players of all time, of which Kenny is soon going to be one, have, weird stretches where it looks like they're trying to figure something out. We have an offensive line that is playing together for the first time. And the first 2 weeks of the season, we probably played 2 top 3 defensive fronts. So that's not good. The play calling hasn't helped him, and he's still clearly working some stuff out. We have 2 weeks before a pretty tough stretch that are absolutely get-right weeks, and I think Kenny's going to turn it up against the Raiders, and then I think the Texans the following week, and everything's going to be okay.
I hope so.
Please
figure it out, Steelers. And Pitt, please win. I know it's a pretty big ask, but please win Saturday.
Please score.
Please change your quarterback and then win.
Well, as always, fellas, hail, loyal sons of Boo City.